Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our webinar today, wherever you are located in the world. This evening, morning, daytime, or in the afternoon. I'm Nana. I'm the Muslim outreach director from Green Faith, and also I'm the co-founder of Global Muslim Climate Network. And I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. And first of all, I would like to thank all our incredible friends and colleagues here, brothers from different parts of the world who agreed to share their Green Ramadan experience, as well as like what's the plan for the Ramadan this year. And this webinar is being recorded, so inshallah you can have the recording, as well as you can have it shared later to any bigger communities. And if you have any question, please write down in the chat box. I hope that we will have like sometimes at the end, even only a few minutes. And for the speakers, I just want to remind, please mention your name, your location, and any organization that you affiliated with. So we are Muslim around the globe is going to welcome Ramadan in the next just couple days. I think, like in other like in some part of the world. And so as we all know that, you know, like Ramadan is very important for us, and also that we do this every day as Muslim community, but also this is a training for us to make ourselves closer to our Creator, to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So, but you know, like we do this like daily, annually, and let's see, like I have a problem with my screen here, but let's see, like okay. And so what we're going to you know, like what, but the thing is, like every year we always have like the same practice again and again, and we're trying to do a better bettering our Ramadan every year. And this year we're encouraging everybody to be conscious on how we practice our Ramadan. So as mentioned earlier, that, you know, like the objective, or like, you know, like the purpose of Ramadan is to have taqwa. And we fast like from, you know, like from dawn to dusk every day, and then we pray tarawih at night. And also we complete it with zakatul fitr to show our love. So like this is just the thing that I have a few years ago, inspired by the book Eat, Pray, Love. I think Ramadan is a fast, pray, love, because we fast, we consume less, we worship more because we have Tarawih every night. But at the same time, also we share more love by having zakat. So, you know, like this is like a good reminder, I think, for everyone. And so, how do we make our Ramadan better this year? So, you know, like we can revive from the Sunnah, from our prophetic tradition, and there's a lot of things that we can learn from that. So I'm just going to give a few um, principles that we have from Green Faith and other related partners this year on the big campaign called Living the Change. It's a sustainable living initiative with different faith groups. But specifically for this Ramadan, we want to focus on 3 points. First is, how do we consume our food? Like, you know, can we, like, you know, how do we um, consume our food during iftar, for example. Like Ramadan is actually a good reminder, also a good training for us to probably should like look how we consume our food, and if it's possible to um, reduce our meat consumption, to consume less meat and more vegetable, and also try to get local food, because food, as we know, like travel far. Unless you purchase it like locally, then like you contribute less on the carbon emission, because most food are still being transported using truckings, for example, that use fossil fuels. So please be conscious about like how you consume food. And also like we try to reduce our food waste, because in Ramadan we see like sometimes our eyes are bigger than our stomach, so because we've been fasting the whole day, especially if you have like communal iftar in the masjid, for example, then we tend to take more but actually we cannot finish it. We cannot finish the plate, and then ended up this food becoming wasted. And so like we trying to be conscious of that, not to waste food, because obviously there's a lot of food waste problem around the world. And as Muslim, we are not, like we are asked not to waste anything, including food, because also like this is the fact that like a lot of food waste around the globe can actually feed the world hunger. So that's very ironic, and please keep that in mind while we're fasting. And another point, the second point, is to be conscious of our energy usage. So especially like the energy that we use at home. So try to minimize that, and like just like something like simple, like turn it off or switch off, unplug when you don't use it. So then just to be cautious. And then also like we encourage also people, if they can, if you need to change your valve, like please use like energy saving lights. And it's widely available, I think, like everywhere right now. And just also like have a thought in mind, or like do some research if there's any possibility to like for any renewable energy in your region, in your city, in where you live, or even like just like kind of explore the possibility. We're not asking people to change like their homes like with solar panel this Ramadan, but like just be cautious, like like do the exploration, take the Ramadan moment as a part of reflection as well at how we consume our energy. And lastly, it's like like to be cautious on how we use our transportation, how like our mobility, how we move around, either like within our city, also like within our city, or as well as like like maybe we travel a lot, like I travel as well. um, so so then like we encourage people to when you go to the masjid, for example, or like this Ramadan, please, if there's public transit in your area, please take that. And also like like if possible to use non-motorized vehicle, um at like then it's being encouraged, like bike to mosque, for example, like bike to school, and or bike to work. And also like like if like carpooling, like like sharing car, like if you have to, like like if there is no transportation system available in your area, if you have to take a car, like like drive a car, then like have it like share, like share with others. So like I live in California, so like we do like community iftar to the masjid, and then like people come, like because in Southern California the public transit is not really good, so like everybody's driving. But try to, who, like, your friends or your, like your acquaintance who want, or your neighbors who are going for iftar in the masjid, then you can, like, certainly arrange that and then go together instead of like go on your own. So lastly, like, we're going to do like all this social media messaging throughout the month of Ramadan, like, with all different messages inspired by the verses in the Quran, as well as the hadith, and or any other teaching. Any other teaching from our teachers, as well as like any experience from Muslim around the globe, how they actually practice Ramadan, and then how they like trying to green their Ramadan. And here's we're going to use Twitter. That our Twitter handle is Muslim Climate, and also Instagram. Our handle is Muslim Climate as well. And please check out our Facebook page, the Global Muslim Climate Network. So that's it from me, and I'm going to invite our brother Mark Bryant from in the UK to share what's the plan for Ramadan this year in his part of the world. Welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Salam Alaikum, everybody. Yes, my name is Mark Bryant, and I'm currently the Project Development Officer for IFES Eco-Islam, and I'm based in Wales, in the UK. So this year, as part of our campaign to encourage mosques to set a positive example around the Islamic environmental stewardship for people's communities, IFES Eco-Islam are advocating a more sustainable approach to the communal iftar, working towards reducing the environmental impact of these events. And what we're hoping to do is for people to take what they've learnt in the mosque, in the masjid, to their own homes. So we're trying to lead from that particular perspective. So this year, World Environment Day falls on the 20th of Ramadan, and we are trying to get as many mosques around the world to join in their theme of beat plastic pollution by encouraging them to hold plastic-free iftars on that day. So you can see there from the poster, that's one example that we have here in Birmingham. The Bahu Trust is having a plastic-free iftar on the 5th of June. And the idea is for people to get some idea about why there's a plastic-free iftar and what it's about, and to encourage as many people as possible to and so what we're trying to do at IFES is we're trying to get as many other mosques as possible to mirror that and to have their own plastic-free iftars. So what we're doing is we have a hashtag, plastic-free iftar. And so what we're encouraging other mosques to do is if they are holding a plastic-free iftar, or they want to, if they use that hashtag, particularly if they take photographs during the event, etc., we would like to then collate all those plastic-free iftars that went on around the world, and to be able to, have them in a kind of central place where people can see what that is. Because for us, the plastic-free iftar is part of encouraging eco-iftars in general. So, we're hoping it's not just going to be this one-day event. We're using the plastic-free iftar, the plastic-free day to try and produce the plastic-free iftar, but we would like that to be part of a greater eco-iftar kind of movement. And so what we've done at IFES is, if you see underneath the hashtag there, we have a web address. which will take you to the resources that we've set up for people who want to put on a plastic-free iftar, to give them some kind of encouragement and some ideas. So if you go onto that site, you'll find that there are these separate areas, these separate tags. The one, for example, talks about, World Environment Day and what that means and what it is. There's another tag that explains why plastic is a bad thing, particularly with my bugbear at the moment, which is to try and encourage people to move away from recycling as the kind of default way to go, because I think that is I think that's a growing problem, particularly in my part of the world, where people say, oh, well, that's okay, it's recyclable. The example we got the other day was when a colleague said to me, oh, I hear that they can make roads out of recycled plastic. And so I said to him, but then what happens to the road afterwards? So, we're trying to kind of encourage that idea of moving away from that. Then the next tag would be about organizing your own plastic-free iftar. So we give people hints, and it's all around encouraging. It's not around finger wagging. It's all around trying to get people to do the things that they feel they can manage. And then that's then followed by, which I think is the very important part, which is other eco-iftar ideas. So you'll find a lot of the things that Sister Nana, mentioned in her introduction, things like, eating less meat, trying to buy locally, etc., etc. So it's not just about plastic free, it's about, making a sustainable iftar altogether. So as far as negative kind of reactions are concerned, what we found is that people tend to say things like, they talk about the money, they talk about, how it's going to cost more, but also particularly they talk about the extra effort. So, for example, if we're encouraging people to bring plates that can be washed rather than plastic plates, people will say to us, well, that all needs to be done. And so what I've been doing and what my colleagues have been doing is kind of working towards encouraging people to look at the rewards of the work as a whole, because there's a certain sense in this part of the world that you'll get a family or whatever, and they'll put their hands in their pocket to pay for the iftar, and that's kind of the beginning and end of their effort as such. And it's not to say that isn't appreciated and that there isn't any worthiness in that, but the fact of kind of rolling one's sleeves up and getting involved, and that by putting effort in, like doing washing or having to pour out glasses of water rather than just hand bottles to people, that we need to start thinking in terms of the ease of doing something is not what we need to be aiming for. That we need to be aiming for the fact that if by putting effort in, that the outcome is better for everybody, including the kind of environment in which they live. I think that's worthy. And as far as the money is concerned, I think you also need to start looking at people thinking beyond the immediacy of something. So if they say to me, okay, well look, if the iftar costs 20% more, then we're able to feed less people for that amount, and that's a fair point. But at the same time, the damage that the plastic or the other environmentally unfriendly things that are happening in the iftar are doing are impacting people, and it also tends to be impacting the poor. The environmental issues of this world are impacting the poor far more than any other group right now. So I think, these are the messages that we need to give to encourage people to maybe have a rethink about the way that they look at, their charitable giving, etc. So, yeah. So to sum up, we're on the 5th of June, we're trying to get as many mosques around the world to run their own plastic-free iftar. and to use the resources that we have on our site, or whatever other resources they have available to them, to use that as a message to people about why it would be a good idea to, in general, be more environmentally aware when they're doing such activities as iftars and anything within the mosque. Any activities within the mosque about being environmental about that, not just necessarily the food. It's about how the mosque uses its energy, etc., etc. So that's really it.
Thank you for sharing, and the plan, and we encourage everyone to please check out the website, and also like encourage your community to do the plastic free iftar. And I think it's very valid that you mentioned that we sometimes not, like, we're not conscious that like what we do, or like our our lifestyle is actually impacting other communities, like like probably these are the like like the poor community that is like bearing all these burdens that based on what like how we run, how we do our lifestyles, or like like whatever we, how we eat, or like travel. But I think that is very valid, like like it's good that I'm glad that you mentioned about that, because I think Ramadan is supposed to be a time of reflection, and I think that is very a good encouragement, and it's on point, I should say. It's on point, and this is the moment to do that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to invite now brother Tariq from Bahrain, but he's actually now I think in Paris. So well, Tariq, take it away.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Tariq Al-Olaimy. Thank you so much, Sister Nana and Brother Mark, for the wonderful presentations. And I would like to start off by hear the call and the invitation, Mark, and inshallah in Bahrain we will join that initiative for a plastic-free iftar. And actually, to share that the reason that I'm speaking, what I'll be sharing about is one of the humble efforts that we had in Bahrain around sort of Green Ramadan, which started actually from a similar call that Nana had made in 2016. And I was part of a group called the Arab Youth Climate Movement, which is been dedicated to educating the Bahraini public on issues related to climate change, and looking at how do we empower young leaders to take environmental action on a global stage. And I was also part of another group called the Manama Hub of the Global Shapers community, which is looking at how do we also look to empower the socioeconomic aspects of Bahrain. And in that, food waste is one of our largest issues. Unfortunately, as a Gulf country, per capita, we waste some of the largest amounts of food in the world. Environmentally, it's not sustainable, either for the food and also the water scarcity that comes around it. And in 2016, we heard the call from the Sacred Earth Initiative, which was called for sort of June 12th, and trying to gather faith communities around the world to honor our sacred earth and take environmental action, in this case around the holy month of Ramadan. And we were looking at the website and looking at all the different initiatives around the world, and we didn't see any from the Middle East region, which was very upsetting to us. And we felt that we should also really respond to this call and look at what can we do on a very small level, but also try and inspire action, yes, in Bahrain, but also to our neighboring countries. And when we tried to put together sort of a Green Ramadan event, we quickly found that there were some wonderful resources around the world, but they're either tailored to California, or sometimes in London, or in Indonesia. And there were beautiful guides and deeply informative. And each had a little piece of what we kind of needed in Bahrain. However, we thought, okay, how can we benefit from this wisdom, put something together, but really try to localize it for something that was relating to the Gulf, that was relating to Bahrain, and also where our particular challenges lied. So we reached out to many of these different organizations to seek their permission for taking from different parts of their guide. And we created our own Green Ramadan guide for Bahrain that was also looking at tailoring it to the way that we recycle, to look at also locally what are the different initiatives and avenues that you could give away to food banks, the recycling points, the different ways to conserve water, particularly for Bahrain. But also, of course, we have a wonderfully diverse Muslim community, and also making sure that it was balanced for things relating to sect and also gender, which we felt was also very important. Now, we created this guide in Arabic and English, and we made it publicly available, and we're grateful for the support of the different organizations in Bahrain for that. Now, it's not enough for us, again, to have just the guide. We wanted to see how it would work in action. So we reached out to a couple of the Islamic societies in Bahrain to try to put together a green, sort of a green iftar. And we were very surprised about the response, and a very unbalanced response. We had a wonderful response from the sisters and the female Islamic societies and the groups, and absolutely zero response from the male. Which was very interesting to us, actually, and was also very educational into why that was, and just kind of trying to understand where sometimes the blockages were in sort of the education, where we needed to focus, but also who were the leading lights in the country and in our society that would also be taking this forward. And it was certainly some of the Islamic societies that were the female and women-led groups. So at that point, I had to step out, and we had a wonderful leadership from the female members of the Arabic Climate Movement and the Global Shapers community, put together a green iftar, and very much as Mark was saying it then, allowed to have a conversation over some of the different parts that we actually just take for granted and we do very naturally in Ramadan, which are not actually Islamic, they're more just cultural, which have developed over time. Which isn't really true to, as Nana had mentioned, the reflective parts of what Ramadan is about. And in many cases, whether it was indeed the use of plastic, or is every dish supposed to be meat, or where do we then give all this away, was actually allowed us to do a process with these societies of looking at, okay, if you're going to be running a green iftar every single day of this month, how is that going to be green? How's that going to be sustainable? Of course, as a society, you're not just doing your good work in Ramadan, but you continue that throughout the year. So how can this guide then be used as a basis to kickstart your green initiatives and really use as a foundation? Now, what surprised us as well is that in a country like Bahrain, with a very diverse religious community, the call was actually taken up by other communities. We were invited by the Baha'i community to actually offer a green iftar by the Catholic community here. And we found that something like that as a guide and a basis was a wonderful point of a discussion around these topics in community. And what had really started it was creating something that was very much local, very much tailored to our environment. And we have now shared the Green Ramadan Guide, which is freely available to other societies in the Gulf for them to take and see what are the different parts they can then localize in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, in Qatar, where they can input, okay, this is the organization to go for instead in our society for food waste, and etc. So it's a very small effort. We saw a lot of conversation around it. It started from a call that Nana had put out with the Sacred Earth Initiative, and I'm deeply appreciative also of the calls and invitations in this call. And I hope those who are listening will take it up, and it's a deeply rewarding journey that we found. So thank you for that time.
Thank you, Tariq. I might be biased, but I think like the sisters always rule on this kind of effort. So I was so glad like 2 years ago when Tariq told me that the sisters in Bahrain actually took up this initiative, and they just run with it. It's like, I didn't expect they created the Green Ramadan guidance for Bahrain. it was so wonderful, and I was like very inspired by that. And I hope this like this kind of effort also being picked up around the globe, and like be like to be an inspiration to all of us. And then I hope like this year also, like this effort I continue in Bahrain and also the neighboring countries, and we want to see like more and more Green Ramadan initiatives around the world. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to share a little bit also from Indonesia, because the person who's supposed to be presenting, Dr. Hayu Prabowo, he had an emergency call, and he has to travel to a, a different city, to Jogja, and he's on the flight at the moment, so that's why he cannot be he cannot log in on the webinar. But but he's he's sending his his greetings to everyone. So this Green Ramadan in Indonesia already kind of like informally started like the last few years, but last year they made a point like like more like nationally, the call is more nationally, and also like engaging with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and there's a green light from the ministry, because it's like it's actually also like along with like it's goes along with the like the objectives of the ministry itself. So the main point in Indonesia is to reduce the waste during like during iftar, because like again like we use also a lot of plastics for like any of our like iftar food containers. So and also so then that's like like a big problem like during Ramadan. And I use the like I use we here because I'm also Indonesian, even though I live in California. So I'm also like encouraging these ideas to my Indonesian fellows to have this Green Ramadan efforts. And like we get a lot of response, a lot of like excitement. 2 years ago, as Tariq mentioned, with the Sacred Earth initiatives, there's like a few young like activists initiated the green iftar like different parts of Indonesia, and it was like heartwarming for me that a lot of people actually realize that like the way we practice our iftar needs to be like improved. So in Indonesia, in this poster, I could like mention, like I could describe a little bit. So to reduce like our plastic from the container or packaging of our food for iftar, and also like everything that we take, we put it in a plastic bag, so I'm trying to reduce like bring it on back, so and also like trying to do like this like the waste separation, separate the waste that we can recycle and those that organic or like this waste that like process of. So that's like that we also call green. And also like we look at the way we use water, because like obviously like that's something that people that people actually like when we myself, I'm running who I use too much water, so I'm very big like videos like how I need my and so like this like the green money and we try to also look at the water, how we use water, and also like use like a lot of tissue paper and try to make that like that something. And of course like I would say like we think we're able to recycle single in this changing our behavior or our habits we can on people's hands. So those are the initiatives in Indonesia, and they're also going to be in the future. So hopefully they will enjoy all the blessings from around the world. So next I'm going to invite Harun actually from Pakistan. Harun, can you are you able to connect? I think Harun was having a hard time connection earlier. Harun, can you well, I think like probably Harun unfortunately has the have a problem like connecting from Pakistan. But as far as I know that we are encouraging our Pakistan police in Pakistan to also like engage in Ramadan, like whatever it is possible to do in that part of the world. So then like we can like together like here and also like also acknowledge this struggle to be conscious of environmental harms. So we'll go back again to Pakistan if Harun is able to connect. So I think I want to share also this initiative Ramadan initiative South Africa. I think that also made a good effort, like you can see here in the slides, trying to use as well gasoline and then like cooking. I've never thought about that. And also like they said like great as a family in one room, so then you use less light and less heater. Like obviously this is like encouraged during the winter time, Ramadan in the winter time. But I think this is very like like great initiatives. I'm very aware of like South African Green Muslim. They're very like very like creative, and also like like move along on the green issues like incredibly. Another thing that I want to share is our initiatives in the U.S. nationally. I'm part of the Islamic Society of North America Green Green Initiative. So this will be our fourth year of having Green Ramadan campaign nationally in the U.S. And we call up to our brothers and sisters in the North America to only 5 simple steps in Green Ramadan. First is like conserving food, as I mentioned earlier, that like during iftar and avoid of being wasteful, and also like be conscious on the water that we use for wudu, as well as like when we drink. A lot of people like because a lot of people like also like waste water during iftar, because a lot of this masjid serve with the water bottle, and people just sip in when they break their fast, sip in, and then after that they like put away their bottle, and then they make salah, and after that they don't know like where's their water. So then they grab another one, so like ended up like by the time you finish tarawih, you have like 10-20 bottles only with half water, and nobody knows like whose water is that. So that's like wasting water. And also like of course like uh like be cautious when we make wudu, because the prophet also like encourage us not to waste water when we make wudu. And also like we encourage the masajid to use degradable paper products for their iftar. So this is like along with like I think like it's goes along with the free plastic iftar as well, like the initiative from UK. And then like still like some massages use styrofoam cups and plates, and then we said like please like change the styrofoam, like say no to styrofoam. I think all masajid has to have that like kind of logo, like no styrofoam in this masjid. And also like we encourage like using like if we cannot, if the masjid cannot install like a water like a water dispenser, then we encourage them to like provide the recycling bin. So then like if they provide like plastic water bottles, then people can put the plastic bottle in the bin, so it's not like mixed with other ways. So this is like along with other initiative from other part of the world as well. And also like energy conscious, while in Ramadan, not to waste our energy usage, like be cautious like like about the lights that you use and any other electricity. And then we encourage our imam and our suyukh and our ustada to give a green lecture or a green khutbah uh, on the Islamic imperative on protecting the environment. So we encourage at least like one Jum'ah to give like a topic on a green, like in environment, or like in every night during the Tarawih. Usually we have lectures, so we encourage like maybe once a week, or once every 2 weeks, like at least you have twice or 3 times within the month of Ramadan, talking about the green initiative, or like what is the Islamic teaching on protecting the environment. So that's from ISNA. And I will check if Harun is here, but I think like he's not he's still like having a hard time to connect with us. So I will check if we have any question from our audience here. Let's see. Let me check my panel. Oh, somebody said that the video is breaking up. So So I will see like if the recording is good, like, so like, you know, I will share with all of you. So okay, all right. So do we have any questions from anyone? In I don't see any question here. All right. So yeah. Uh, all right. Let me share screen again. Okay. Yeah. So perhaps like Tariq, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So Tariq, can you tell us, like, you know, when the sisters initiated this Green Ramadan 2 years ago, so what is the process, like, you know, how did they come about to actually produce the guidelines, and also like, you know, like I recall it's this was not only one organization but like a few groups, like how do they like come like and collaborate to each other? That's an interesting thing, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy to share that. Thank you. So in forming the guide, we found that each community only had, I guess, a little piece of the puzzle. So one organization was focused on simply mapping out all the different recycling bins in Bahrain, for example. Another organization was simply focused on actually being in this case in one of the societies, discover Islam, and actually working on the iftars. There's one organization which was focused on the climate change aspect of it, understanding the global Muslim climate declaration and how to integrate that in. And the other organization was just focused kind of on community education. So what was interesting is that none of us alone could have sort of put this together. It really needed to be a collaborative effort to put the guide. And then when it came to the implementation, it was the same thing. It didn't make sense that only one of those organizations who was involved to be the ones to organize the iftar. And actually, we designed, for example, the sort of initial lecture and the education around the iftar, where each of these organizations and the representatives would sort of deliver a certain piece of it. And it was also interesting for them because each had been involved in only one sort of certain part of it. And then coming together, the test was, okay, does this actually work in real life? Can we use this guide where maybe not everyone knows all the pieces of information, and when given to them as a whole, can they run with it? The answer was yes, alhamdulillah. It's meant to also be non-technical and something that whether you have an environmental background or not, you can sort of bring your communities. So we are very cognizant of making sure that the development of the guide was collaborative, that the initial sort of launch of the Green Iftar was also similar.
Wow. Thank you, Tariq, for sharing that, because I think this is very it's very interesting and inspiring, because I don't think, as I think Brother Mark also mentioned, it's impossible to do this this initiative alone, like even if like one organization, and we need to collaborate, like you mentioned, like one group's like focusing on education, one group is aware of the Islamic Declaration on Global Climate Change, so like everybody's bring like different part on the table, and then like we agree to collaborate on something, which is very beautiful. And we're trying to do that like across the globe, and you know, like inshallah we can make it this Ramadan. And because you know, it's more and more, I think, like with the condition around the globe, this is very important, the message like to green our practice during Ramadan. And I have a question from the brother in India about the response from the religious leaders or the teachers or the clerics. So far, what like in my experience, and I communicate with several of them, that like this is a very encouraging, and they said this is this is a great initiative. The question is like in from different region to like different region and different cities, different countries will respond to it differently based on the condition uh, of that respect, of that region. But in general, they really supportive of these initiatives like the Green Ramadan or Eco Ramadan, whatever we want to call it, or Green Iftar, because they said this is what Islam is about. This is what Islam is about. This is the message from our Prophet, peace be upon him, that like we like to be cautious, to live simply, not to waste. All those messaging is along the line with the Islamic teaching. So they said this is like a good point. Like now it's like, how do we encourage, how do we organize our community to implement this? So that those are like the points that I can share. Just like last 2 days ago, I was in a masjid, like the weekend before Ramadan. So I mentioned this to the sheikh that gave a lecture, that we need to be conscious on how we practice our Ramadan, and he said, yes, you are right. We really need to emphasize that we need to really like look how we have been uh, practicing our Ramadan as well as our iftar. Like wasting food is one of the major thing also. That's like, which is like it's a no actually, for Muslim, but like that's still a lot of practice. So like we're hoping through this Ramadan we can encourage. And then like, and if you remember, I mentioned like in ISNA, for example, that we encourage our imam and our teacher to give the green lectures or green bayan or green khutbah during the month of Ramadan. And like please bring the this teaching from the like to protect the earth, to be conscious of our how we behave, like how we like our lifestyles, and also to have like to care for other creation of Allah during this Ramadan. This is the month of reflection. So I think this is is the right time. So I also want to remind everyone, if I forgot to say that, we have actually the hashtag that I forgot to write down in here. So like during this Ramadan, as besides the plastic free iftar that Mark mentioned, we also will use the Green Ramadan hashtag. So Green Ramadan, and also like from the Global Muslim Climate Network, we have Muslim for Climate. You can also use that. And then from the big global initiative for sustainable living, we have Walk Gently in our hashtag, as our hashtag. Also Live the Change as our hashtag. So those are the four the four hashtag, and you will see that, and I'm going to put that also in the Facebook page of Global Muslim Climate Network, just as a reminder. So and oh, Mark is back here, so I'm going to ask you a question, Mark. Like, so how do you, like, so far, with this initiative as plastic, no plastic iftar, how is the response from the community so far? Because you've you've already worked on this with our other colleague Kamran Fazil. He's supposed to be here, but unfortunately he has to fly early to to Tanzania, so he cannot join us today. So Mark, is Mark here? Oh, I think he just left. So well, if he comes back, then we will ask him, like, you know, like how do they like how the community respond on this initiative to not having any plastic during Ramadan. But I will so we will I will go to this page that we will use as our yeah, here, hold on. All right, so I encourage everyone to go to our website, the livingthechange.net, and to be on the lookout what, you know, like what any inspiring stories from the Green Ramadan. And right now we have like some inspiring stories in terms of how people of faith, different faiths, changing their lifestyle to be more sustainable. And please, I encourage everyone to go to the livingthechange.net to learn, like, you know, like some inspiring stories. And I wish everyone to have a wonderful Ramadan. And please make the intention this year that we're going to do our Ramadan like better and greener. And also to start small. It's okay to start small, but you have to start from somewhere and from something, and to you know, like to make the effort this Ramadan. So then, you know, like not to, like, you know, a lot of people like say that, oh, I'm, you know, like it's wonderful thing, but it's very hard for me to do so because it's a lot of hassle or other. But you know, like start to do things, you know, like even it's a small step. So may we be able to accomplish a better and greener Ramadan this year to the best of our ability and in seeking the pleasure of Allah. So I would like, I think like we only have a few more minutes left, and so I would like to again, you know, to remind everyone, make the intention, take the pledge. We're going to post something in the Living the Change website. And at the end, finally, I wish you all a blessed Ramadan, Ramadan Mubarak, and hopefully this Ramadan will you know, will be the inspiring moment for all of us to protect and to care for our earth. Thank you so much for your attention, and please be, you know, join our social media on either Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you.
Thank you.